Good morning on the West Coast, good afternoon on the East Coast, and happy days everywhere in between. Today is Wednesday, February 19th, and as I always say, it's a beautiful day to have a webinar. I'm John Yarrington, CEO of the Performance Driven Marketing Institute, a 501c6 not-for-profit trade association dedicated to protecting, promoting, and advancing the direct-to-consumer and performance-driven marketing industries. And on behalf of the entire PDMI family, it's my pleasure to welcome you back to yet another fun-filled and exciting episode of the PDMI Take 20. As a reminder, the PDMI Take 20 is a quick-hitting roundtable discussion led by industry experts on trending topics, all in roughly 20 minutes. We are joined today by a true superstar. Unfortunately, we're going to get his audio and not his video today, but then nonetheless, my friend Reno Renaldo of OpenJar Concepts. And together, we'll be looking at the exciting world of personal injury and mass tort marketing. However, before we get started, please allow me to do a little housekeeping. If you'd like to ask a question, and we encourage you to do so, please use the questions tab located in the control panel. And please note, you're welcome to ask questions throughout today's conversation, but we'll hold all replies to the end of our discussion. Alrighty, folks. With that said, it's my pleasure to announce today's moderator. Scott Baio calls him Charles because he's always in charge. He's the fearless Chris Foster. Chris is Vice President of New Business at Modern Postcard, a direct marketing agency located in Carlsbad, California. In addition to his day job, Chris teaches brand strategies at UCSD extension courses, and he's the chairperson of the PDMI's Brand Response Council. As always, Chris, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here today. Thank you. And for the 108th time, because today is the 108th episode, take it away, my friend. Take it away.
Right on. Thank you, John, and thank you, Reno, for being here. Yes, 108 episodes in, and this is the Hot Categories series where we focus on specific industries that are, blowing up within the performance marketing space because they're doing all the things right in terms of performance marketing, but they're also tapping into the newer channels and newer ideas. So bringing kind of the best of the old concepts and applying some of the new tactics because, as we know, everything changes. So within the tort and legal space, we know that attorneys have to settle complex cases and the like, but they also have to market too. And these are not necessarily professional marketers. And add to the mix this fragmented media environment. It's more important than ever for these attorneys and law firms to understand how to mix different channels to get the most positive presence. You've got billboard, linear, CTV, direct mail, and more. The challenge is to kind of balance these variety of impressions to create the right, brand presence, but also the right call to action and the right intake process also to turn those impressions into leads and clients. The best practices of the past don't apply today. Some of them do. Some of them don't. Some are new best practices coming forward, and that's why we're so excited to talk with Reno from OpenJar Concepts. They are an award-winning hybrid performance media and advertising agency. So Reno, thank you for being here. I don't know if we're able to see you, so I think it's going to be on the phone only. Not a problem. On the phone only. You have a beautiful voice. I'm sure you have a face for television, but you also have a voice for radio. So this is fantastic.
I have a face for radio. You got it.
So let's kind of dive in. I think that what I'd like to do is to kind of ask you to explain some of the changes you've seen within this space over the last couple of years, kind of 2023 to 2024, and then now what you expect in 2025.
Wow. So thanks for having me. Appreciate that. We're not too far from your Carlsbad location up in Southern California in Temecula. We're a little north of you.
Yeah.
So thanks for having us. Appreciate it. Wow. So the mass tort and legal services has definitely changed over the 20 plus years I've personally been in it. More so, I would say, in the last few years, just with a lot of, AI technology, a lot of regulatory crackdown with legal ads, as well as even how you're supposed to advertise to the claimant, the consumer, using certain keywords, medical keywords that you're not allowed to use as well, has definitely changed. A lot of tactics and optics in the industry. Let it be single event, which is your motor vehicle accidents, to personal injuries, which is a single event case. Mass tort is really no state boundaries. It's a federal case similar to class action lawsuits. It's a multi-district litigation. So that's the delineation of single event, which is motor vehicle accidents, and mass tort litigation.
Mm-hmm. No, that's interesting. I think that the idea of AI coming in to maybe help write some copy or help write some, work within the law firm itself, I think it's going to be a really interesting story. What are you hearing from law firms when they start talking about how they're using AI?
AI is helping optimizing the vetting process, the lead qualification, the sediment of the conversation. It reduces intake costs and optimize the level of integrity in the data set. It helps optimize the media targeting. So AI is definitely facilitating in-house law firms, media strategies, data optimization, subject matter of the call, if it's an injury, if it's a motor vehicle accident, the sediment of the phone call, that just overall just improves the quality, the continuity of all marketing channels. Let it go internal and external.
Interesting. Speaking of marketing channels, first of all, I want to congratulate OpenJar on being nominated for various TV and radio ads and you actually won an award for the best spot, TV spot, the Golden Gavels. Right. So congratulations on the nominations and the wins. Question for you. When you talk with clients or when you think about the strategy, how does that change between a 60-second or a 60-second ad or a 15-second ad, or radio and print ads? Because clearly you're in all of these channels. How do you adjust your approach for each channel?
One, you have to have continuity. The messaging back to the claimant, the consumer that was hurt, had an injury. We want to make sure that's precise. And the continuity of the objective. Is it a branding campaign where we're trying to get the law firm's name out there into a local marketplace on their specialty, their niche of law, versus a mass tort litigation, which is more, mass appeal, more of a shotgun approach where we're getting it out to the masses. And it just has to be concise, and it has to be what we're saying on television. We got to make sure the message is being conveyed in the same manner as it is in digital.
Roger. So let's talk about that with digital. Are there clients who are asking you to do only digital programs? And if so, what's your advice to them?
Well, we don't like to put all of our eggs in one basket because we're performance, right? We're turning over all the rocks to find that claimant that was injured, hurt, needs to be represented by one of our law firms. So yes, we can definitely isolate to digital only. And if the demographic fits that, it makes sense. But if we can also find the same consumer on television, we're going to have a better quality of a plaintiff pool for settlements.
Sure.
So we want to make sure that, the demographic meets the target. If we're going after, say, if we're going after a claimant that's on the older side of the demographic, like Camp Lejeune, big campaign when Biden signed that back in August of 2022. It really ran the gamut of all demographics, but we wanted to kind of target the older demographics first because they were stationed there. So we hit television, we hit print really hard because it fit the actual demographic. As we started seeing next of kin, we then started going into, say, radio and digital, that they had a loved one that was affected.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I was going to ask that of you. Have you found that different channels perform better, or is it based on the demographic? Does it matter? Are you seeing any type of I don't know, pattern that develops between maybe the channel and the audience?
Yeah, so we optimize our data to hit the demographic or the respondents that are responding to the ad, either through a telephone call, a lead acquisition that converts into potentially a case being signed to continue to build up subject matter to make sure that they fit the box to submit that case for resolution. So yeah, we can see based off of the responses that digital might be working better from an efficiency standpoint than television.
Okay.
And then we would offer that up to the client. The client might say, well, spend an additional 10 or 20% over here on digital, keep my TV, radio, and print still going, but let's focus in over here, because we see when we substantiate the injury or substantiate the proof of use, if it's a medical device or a pharmaceutical that caused the injury, all of that subject matter, we're basically optimizing that. So we do see, based off of a data feedback loop that we get from the client, that we're having real good success in digital. So let's not cut all of it. Let's just, add 10, 20, 30% if there's that much of an efficiency for digital, and vice versa. In some cases like Zantac litigation, television was outperforming digital.
Sure. And then so the clients, I guess, are giving you feedback, because I guess if I'm reading this right, Reno, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it's not just the response you're looking for in terms of just response and intake, but it's the actual follow through and the resolution. And if you can map the channel to the optimum resolution, you can determine some patterns within those, which channels are most effective. Is that right?
Correct. So you're going through an intake process. No different than the days of the as seen on TV widgets. There's a call center that's taking that order, right? They follow a script. For the Zantac litigation, they just want to make sure, hey, here's the list of Zantacs that you potentially could have used that caused these injuries, and they sign certain documents that gives the law firm to continue to build that case for resolution. There's a sales cycle after that intake's done. Could be 90, could be 6 months, could be 5 years until we see a resolution. But what we're trying to find out was, were they prescribed Zantac? How long did they use it? What injuries caused it, causation, and proof of use. So if we can fit that all in the box, then that is, their case is secure to potentially be settled once it gets to resolution. So there's there's a sales cycle after the fact. So we're getting that data feedback from those clients, from those call centers that are building up the cases, from the med record information that, hey, we do see that there is proof of use.
Yeah.
So when we get that data feedback, then we know that, hey, if the campaign is continuing, well, let's just see where all the marketing strategies are coming from so we can optimize that target. And if it says, hey, put all of your media into television, then that's what we'll do.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I love that you work with the clients closely so that you can determine what's actually working down into the resolution space. I guess a question that I would ask for you is, law firms are very specific, they're super niche, they know what they know. Marketing is not what they necessarily know, nor should they. But I'm sure that some law firms come in and they see what other people are doing. They probably have some things, their own ideas about what they might want to do. What are some of the things that you wish that your clients would ask you first when you first start engaging?
Wow, that's a loaded question. Loaded question, primarily is kind of like proof in the pudding. If I'm a client and I call up an ad agency, I want to know what they have done in the past, what they're currently doing, and what are they doing for the future. You know, you learn from the past, and you can take that information to maximize what you're doing currently while taking and understanding what the future holds. And as you can tell, the future holds a lot, especially with, you know, AI and technology optimization, and the media just fragmenting to different layers upon layers. We want to make sure that we're, one, messaging the same, let it be from TV to digital to print to radio, and even if it goes all the way out to billboards. We want to make sure we have the message is clean and concise, so that, one, we're representing the law firm's ethics and what they're required to do by the local bar. And we are a conduit for justice for these claimants that don't know how to navigate the waters of a mass tort. It's not like you can call your local BK lawyer to help you navigate the waters of a mass tort litigation. Difficult. Right. So you want to have somebody that focuses on that.
No, that makes sense. And I think that when you start working with these clients, do you find that there are differences when you're doing these regional or kind of cross-regional campaigns like for mass tort versus a local, maybe, you know, single event type of practice, and how do you adjust that for your clients to let them know that, you know, a wider net is going to be very different than a real focused net?
Yeah, because you have, especially when it comes to single event, you have law firms that have been there, that have staying power and buying power, that have been sending their messages across TV and radio for 20, 30, 40 years. So right. We have to go in, right? So it's hard to do a local buy and take over a top one or a top two placement in that marketplace. So we have right. other strategies that we employ, let it be digital or, you know, independent stations, radio, billboard, outdoor advertising, that will get their message across. Now, mass tort from a single event is very difficult, but if it's a wide base, like say PFAS, where we're going after clusters or a regional, they're very successful. And PFAS is the ever ingredient that causes, you know, 15 different injuries from, you know, testicular to kidney cancer to thyroid issues.
Well, A, it sounds terrible, and I hope I never encounter it. But B, I'm glad that, you know, from an understanding standpoint, that, you know, the way the media has changed, because you mentioned on the kind of the fragmentation. I loved your idea of, you know, if you find that some of those top spots are taken in the local markets, just choose the dozens or hundreds of other channels to promote and to kind of find your way to that audience. We're at about 11. We're at about 11:25 already. This just blew right by. John, do we have any questions from the audience?
Hey guys, great conversation. Boy, you guys really blew through that fast today. And 25 minutes just came and gone. But we've got an active audience and we have some good questions. Let's start with a two-part question on personal injury. From Larry H. Parker to Sweet James, local media channels like broadcast and outdoor seem a little inundated with personal injury messaging. Is the marketplace, first question, is the marketplace a little oversaturated? And two, if it is, or how do you navigate through the oversaturation so that your client can, you know, get through the noise?
Yeah, if you're talking specifically, say, California, LA market, it's definitely saturated. It has forever staying power. You have Jacoby and Myers, you have Sweet James, you have Larry H. Parker, and then you have a lot of, you know, up and coming, brilliant, you know, law firms that are coming and finding new tactics when it comes to digital, new sponsorships, just disruptive type of marketing channels that are not going to be saturated when it comes to like billboards. You know, I'm in Southern California and every off-ramp has one or two different billboards, and at least 50% of them is a local or a motor vehicle accident law firm, personal injury law firm. So there's a lot of accidents, there's a lot of injuries that are here in California, so the demand is high. The spaces are limited, and if you understand what you're really good at and you focus in on that, we can hone in on a marketing channel that will just make you thrive and flourish around the noise, because we're not going to join the noise.
Great feedback, Reno. Thank you for that. Here's another question for you. And you guys touched on it a little bit just a few minutes ago, but what channels are your clients inquiring about these days? I mean, there's so many channels, media channels you can be a part of: indoor, outdoor, CTV, streaming, audio, linear. When a client comes to you, what are they asking for? Like, what's the popular thing that they think? It may not be the right thing, but what they think they want.
It's still tried and true. It's old media, it's television, it's even streaming. Streaming and connected TV is very expensive. Sometimes our performance-based models don't work in those environments. We get those as somewhat make goods when it comes to linear TV budgets that we get. But it is still tried and true, old media. Everyone wants to be on television. Everyone wants to be in radio. And if we can tie in digital and print to the equation and outdoor advertising, such as billboards, we do that as well. We are a hybrid media company that uses performance-based advertising as a way to connect their message to everyday John and Jane that might be affected by an injury, pharmaceutical, a medical device company, you name it.
Totally get it. Thank you for that. Let's move on to an ad tech style question. Can you speak a little bit about how agencies today may be using a combination of big data and connective advertising to drive leads? And if they are doing this technique, is it more effective or efficient for mass tort versus personal injury?
They both can work in that environment. It's basically retargeting, because what they might watch on their iPhone, they're watching on a big screen at home. And as long as you're implementing a retargeting campaign through connected TV, it can work great in local market as well as national. Obviously, national, you get your dollar is going to be stretched further than, say, your local. Local is very expensive when it comes to mass tort and personal injury. But we found that retargeting is essential on any campaign.
Good feedback, Reno. Thank you very much. Let's move on to one more question, because I know we went a little long on today's discussion, but this is kind of a prediction question. What is the status and health of the personal injury and mass tort category in 2025? And are there any technological or regulatory changes coming down the pipeline which may impact business?
We're seeing a healthy mass tort as well as single event. Single event is like, your local fires. Look at what happened here locally in Southern California. That's a single event, right? So, LA fires potentially were caused by the electric companies, and that's thriving and getting these individuals, justice and compensation to rebuild is vital. And basically standing with these potential claimants on their rights. So from that single event, it's going to be healthy. Mass tort's going to be thriving with PFAS, with Ozempic, ultra processed foods, the settlements and how that's going to come down with the Camp Lejeune claims that have surged well over, 500,000 potential claimants. So we're seeing it thrive on both sides.
It's interesting you mentioned that, Reno, about Ozempic. I'm really curious to see what plays out, because it hasn't, there's such mass adoption. I don't think there's been a lot of time in terms of figuring out what other health complications that might be caused by Ozempic. So I thought that was really insightful. Right. That you keyed up on that down the road in the X number of months or years, that could be a significant situation for claimants.
You know, I don't have a dog in the fight
Yeah,
here, but I'm going to share something that was pretty funny. I heard someone say the other day, they said, you know, when it came to the COVID shot, people fought that tooth and nail. Like, I am not putting something I know nothing about in my body. And then when it comes to something like Ozempic, hey, you want to lose weight? Give me the shot, and I'll take it every week.
It's funny. I think the world wants that fix it quick, right? And these companies play on that. You know, we're early on in the multi-district litigation. It just formed. It's really just early on the complications, but it's going to, 40, 50 million people have potentially taken it thus far. And mind you, it was a diabetic drug.
Right. It was for type 2 diabetes, and if you've got 40 million people, just imagine 1% of those having an issue.
That's right. Yeah, PFOS, which is the forever chemical, pretty much in almost every single water facility across the country. That's the forever chemical. Potentially 110 million households, which is almost every single household in America, potentially has that in their blood. So that one might be a more long-term, like a mesothelioma issue, because there's so many potential defendants.
Yeah. Crazy days.
Reno, let me say, my friend, we generally give this conversation with 2 or 3 panelists. Today was just you and Chris, and you were having technical problems, and you weren't even on screen. And I have to say, you were the brightest star in the sky today. So thank you for coming and sharing your wisdom.
Well, you know how to puff me up for the day. Now I'm going to be holding my head way high.
Well, folks, I hope you guys enjoyed today's conversation as much as I did. Before we close out, I'd like to take a moment to invite you to join us for our next episode of the PDMI's Take 20, hosted Wednesday, March 5th at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. I'd also like to remind you that the spring conference, PDMI East, is scheduled for April 7th to 9 in Miami. If you're feeling a little cold there, we can't wait to see you in the warm, sunny weather of Miami at the Eden Rock Hotel, toes in the sand at the beach. Conference attendees will save nearly $300 per night on the Eden Rock Hotel simply by buying your badge and booking your room through the group link. However, you must act quick because the last day to get that discount is March 5th. That's right, March 5th. To get your attendee badge and your hotel room, please visit thepdmi.com. That's thepdmi.com. Thanks again, everyone, and make it a great day.